The first time Miss Eliza Ashbourne heard the name of Mr. Nathaniel Clarke, it was spoken with a mixture of admiration and scandal. "He is most agreeable," declared Mrs. Pemberry, fluttering her fan with unnecessary enthusiasm. "But there is something unusual about him." Eliza, who prided herself on her practical mind, raised a brow. "Unusual in what sense? Does he limp? Or speak only in poetry?" "Neither," Mrs. Pemberry whispered, leaning closer. "He thinks differently. As though he does not quite belong to our time." Eliza nearly laughed. Society, she knew, was forever inventing peculiarities to amuse itself. Still, as she stood in the glittering ballroom of Lady Dunsmore's spring assembly, she could not help but feel a flicker of curiosity. It was, after all, a truth universally acknowledged, though rarely spoken aloud, that the most interesting men were always the most inconvenient. Mr. Nathaniel Clarke was not what Eliza expected. He was tall, certainly, with a figure that carried both strength and an odd sort of ease, as though he were accustomed to moving in spaces larger than drawing rooms and polite gardens. His dark hair was slightly unruly, his cravat tied with competence but without the elaborate flourish favored by fashionable gentlemen. But it was his gaze that unsettled her. When he looked at the world, it was not with the practiced detachment of the ton, nor with the careless arrogance of fortune. It was as though he were seeing everything for the first time, and remembering it all at once. Eliza observed him from across the room, determined to form an opinion before he had the opportunity to form one of her. He spoke kindly to Lady Dunsmore, listened attentively to a gentleman twice his age, and, most surprisingly, laughed with genuine delight at something a young debutante said, rather than offering the usual polite smile. "How extraordinary," Eliza murmured. "Extraordinary?" came a voice beside her. She turned to find her dearest friend, Miss Charlotte Bexley, watching her with knowing amusement. "You have been staring at him for the past 5 minutes," Charlotte continued. "Should I be concerned?" "I do not stare," Eliza replied primly. "I observe." "Of course you do." "And I have observed," Eliza went on, "that Mr. Clarke is either the most sincere man in London, or the most skilled pretender." Charlotte's smile widened. "There is only one way to discover which." Eliza sighed. "I was afraid you might say that." Their introduction came sooner than she expected. "Miss Ashbourne," Lady Dunsmore said warmly, guiding her forward, "may I present Mr. Nathaniel Clarke?" Eliza curtsied gracefully. "Mr. Clarke." "Miss Ashbourne," he replied, bowing. His voice was low, steady, and faintly amused. "It is a pleasure." His eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than propriety strictly allowed, though not long enough to be improper. It was, Eliza realized, precisely the sort of balance that suggested a man accustomed to navigating rules he did not entirely accept. "You appear to be enjoying the evening," she said. "I am," he answered. "Though I confess, I am still learning the customs." "London society is not so difficult to understand," Eliza said lightly. "No," he agreed. "But it is very particular." She tilted her head. "And you are not?" "On the contrary," he said, smiling, "I am particular about entirely different things." Eliza felt, quite suddenly, as though she were standing at the edge of something she could not yet see. Over the following weeks, Mr. Clarke became an increasingly frequent presence in her life. He called upon her family in Grosvenor Square, conversed easily with her father, and managed, much to Eliza's astonishment, to win over her formidable mother within 3 visits. But it was during their walks in Hyde Park that Eliza began to understand him. "You notice everything," she said one afternoon as they strolled beneath the budding trees. "I try to," he replied. "No," she insisted. "You notice things others overlook. The pattern of the clouds, the way people speak when they believe no one listens. Even the smallest details." He smiled faintly. "Where I come from, details matter." "And where is that?" she asked. He hesitated, just briefly. "Somewhere far from here." Eliza frowned. "You speak as though you have traveled the world." "In a manner of speaking," he said. There was something in his tone that made her heart quicken, not with fear, but with anticipation. "You are keeping secrets," she said. "Yes," he admitted. "And you expect me to tolerate that?" "No," he said softly. "I expect you to demand the truth." The truth, when it came, was not what she expected. It was a rainy afternoon when he finally spoke of it. They had taken refuge in a quiet corner of her father's library, the sound of rain tapping gently against the windows. "I was not born in this time," he said. Eliza stared at him. For a moment, she considered laughing. It would have been the sensible response, but something in his expression, earnest, steady, entirely without mockery, held her still. "You expect me to believe that?" she asked. "I expect you to question it," he replied. "And then decide for yourself." He told her then, of a world beyond hers, filled with inventions she could scarcely imagine, of cities that stretched endlessly, of a life that moved faster than anything she had ever known. "I do not know how I came here," he said. "Only that I did. And that I cannot return." Eliza's mind raced. "This is madness." "It may be," he agreed. "But it is the truth." She rose from her seat, pacing the room. "You ask me to accept that you are— what? A traveler through time?" "Yes." "And that you intend to remain here?" "Yes." She stopped, turning to face him. "Why tell me this?" "Because," he said quietly, "you deserve to know who I am." Eliza did not sleep that night. She lay awake, replaying every moment she had spent with him. Every word, every glance, every strange, wonderful inconsistency. If he were lying, he was the most extraordinary liar she had ever encountered. But if he were telling the truth? Impossible, she whispered into the darkness. And yet, she could not dismiss it. Days passed before she saw him again. When he called, she nearly refused him. But curiosity, and something far more dangerous, would not allow it. "You have had time to consider," he said when they met. "I have," she replied. "And?" Eliza took a deep breath. "I believe that you believe what you are saying." He smiled faintly. "That is a start." "It is not acceptance," she warned. "I would not expect it to be." She studied him carefully. "If what you say is true, then you have lost everything." "Yes." "And yet," she said softly, "you do not seem unhappy." He met her gaze. "Because I have found something else." Her heart faltered. "What?" "You." Love, Eliza had always believed, was a sensible thing. It was built on compatibility, respect, and a shared understanding of the world. What she felt for Nathaniel Clarke was none of those things. It was inconvenient. It was improbable. It was, in every possible way, unreasonable. And yet, it was undeniable. "You cannot expect me to choose a life built on uncertainty," she said one evening. "I expect nothing," he replied. "I only offer what I can give." "And what is that?" "Everything I am," he said. "Even if it does not belong to this world." The decision, when it came, was not made in a single moment. It unfolded slowly, in quiet realizations and unguarded conversations. In the way he listened to her thoughts as though they mattered more than propriety. In the way he saw her, not as society defined her, but as she truly was. And in the way she felt, when she was with him, as though the world were larger than she had ever imagined. "I will not pretend to understand it," she said at last. "You do not have to," he replied. "But I do understand this," she continued. "That love, true love, is not bound by time or place." He stepped closer. "No," he said softly. "It is not." Eliza smiled, her heart steady at last. "Then I suppose we must simply make our own rules." Their marriage was, by all accounts, a success. Society, ever eager for novelty, accepted Mr. Clarke's peculiarities as charming eccentricities. And Eliza, once the most practical of women, became something else entirely. A believer in the impossible. Years later, as they stood together in the quiet of their garden, Nathaniel took her hand. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Never," she said. "Even now?" She smiled, looking up at him. "Especially now." He kissed her gently, the world shifting around them in ways neither of them could fully explain. Different world. Same forever. And in that moment, it was enough. The end. If you love this story and want more, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with a fellow romance lover, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale.